so I appreciate it. I remember I did to Eric Bogosian, he would run every time I'd see him. No, I called him and I said, hey, you know, I have a friend who is good at getting phone numbers, a shady kind of character, and I got Cormac's number, and I called him, and I left a message. He didn't call me back. I left another one, then I left a third, and I was bored or frustrated one day, and I said, listen, I don't know why you won't call me back. I don't want you to sign my book or anything. Just call me back. And like 3 days later, he had come back from doing Sunset Limited, one of his plays in Chicago, and he said, you know, he was totally amicable and said, I'm sorry I didn't call you back, and I just got home, and what do you need, you know? And I said, well, you know, I'd love to, you know, for you to come down to the set, or you guess. And so finally he brought one of his family members down to the set and really enjoyed himself, because I had heard he had been to, what was the other one? The Cormac, All the Pretty Horses.
All the Pretty Horses,
yeah, and the rumor was that he had spent all his time with the props man, just talking about guns. So we had a feeling that even if he did come down, that we wouldn't be able to spend any time with him. But he's a huge fan of Miller's Crossing. That was the first thing that he brought up. Yeah. And then the other thing that we talked about was his involvement in Santa Fe Institute. He's the only literary portion of, you know, a bunch of physicists and scientists and of that think tank.
Right.
So he's more proud of that than anything else. He doesn't want to talk about writing.
I know. In fact, somebody, I think, told me they went to see him, and that's where they met. They met at the Santa Fe Institute. That's where he insisted on meeting. You want to meet me? We'll go there.
That's where he sends his mail and everything.
Oh, I didn't know. Yeah. Has he talked to you about the movies? Anybody? Have you talked to him since then? Have you become what?
They've talked to him a few times.
What does he say?
He saw the movie. We think he liked it. As Ethan said, he didn't yell at us. He didn't.
What did he say?
Yeah, you know, he seemed to like it. We were actually sitting in the movie in the theater screening room with him when he saw it, and he was way up front. But I heard him chuckle a couple of times, so I took it as I took that as the seal of approval. I don't know, maybe presumptuously, and you know.
I talked to him afterwards. He says, "A good movie there." And then I waited for more, and none came, and that was the end of the conversation.
And you felt good to have that.
But that's good. When you talk to these laconic West Texas guys, when they give you that much, it's huge. It's kind of like them.
Yeah. Violence in this movie, or violence generally for you guys. Is this something that you think, I mean, is it in every movie?
Well, it's a very violent, I mean, one of the things we said to Scott Rudin, one of the first things we sort of discussed with him when he sent us the book was, you know, there's a lot of violence in the book, and it's very important, as there is in a lot of Cormac's novels, and it's very important to the story, and we couldn't conceive of sort of soft-pedaling that in the movie and really doing anything resembling the book. You know, it would have been nonsensical, and we wanted to make sure that Scott was on the same page with that. Of course he was. I mean, he wanted to make the book. He didn't want to make some sort of studio Hollywood version of you know, No Country for Old Men. But it's, you know, it's about a character confronting a very arbitrary, violent, brutal world, and you have to see that. You see it in the story as it's written, and you have to see it in the movie in order to understand what, in order to understand anything, I think, about what the characters are, what they're about and what they're confronting and what they're trying to make sense of.
Everybody talks about the dog chase into the river that's seen the movie. Every reviewer, everybody that I know. I mean, you see it as having that sort of appeal?
We did add the dog to that scene, but we figured Cormac wouldn't mind because he likes his dogs.
And he did say he liked the dog after the movie. That was one of the cases of taking something in the novel, which was a very exciting chase scene in the novel.
Set it up for us.
Well, in the novel, after Josh's character finds the money, he actually goes back to the scene of the crime, so to speak, the place where he found the money later that night. The reasons why are interesting, and I won't go into them, but he goes back, and it's the biggest mistake. It's the mistake he makes that's sort of the catalyst that sets the rest of the plot in motion. He's then confronted by some of the perpetrators and chased. And it's a set piece in the novel, and we knew it was going to be sort of a set piece in the movie, that it was an opportunity for a very sort of exciting piece of cinema, you know. But in doing it, we amped it up sort of another level that's just, I think, sort of purely appropriate in movie terms. But it also was, it made sense to us to include this dog, because so much of what Carmack's is, he's fascinated by animals and by dogs, and they play such a sort of huge part of so many of his stories that this seemed like an addition we were bringing to the movie, which was not sort of inappropriate to his sensibility.
Since then, actually, I hadn't read it then, but I read Cormac's first book, which is great and weird for a first book because it's so much Cormac. It's not like he was trying to figure out who he was. It was like all his other books. But in that
all
too,
his other books are trying to figure out who he is.
All his other books, he kind of knows who he is, and he knows what he's doing. But even in the first one has a really good dog. I thought, man, even
I want that dog. I want that dog in my movie.
So what happens? Josh.
What happens to the guy?
Yeah. No, what happens to the dog and what happens to the guy? Yeah. I mean, why is this scene so intriguing to everybody?
Well,
because there's fear.
No, because it's so visceral. You know, I mean, the whole thing is
visceral and
the fact that you can't. You know, it's not going to be an argument at the end of the chase. It's not going to be. It's a showdown that there's no possible way you can cinematically predict. You know, and the fact that they're running along this river and there's every obstacle, but from a terrain point of view, and then you have this rabid, you know.
This was a mean dog.
Yeah.
No, he wasn't a movie dog. He wasn't. He was a trained, awful. I mean, he was a sweet. No, he wasn't sweet. He was a dog.
Right.
But he had the look. He had the Beelzebub look. He had the, you know, he had
could do it.
Chigurh.
Yeah.
He was the animal version of Chigurh.
My pet. Exactly. Your pet. Let's see. Let me see that again.
No, it's just like this thing that he does, you know.
I was thinking that walk to my pet. I was thinking.
Anyway, there's the dog.
So the dog dives in.
The dog dives in, and I remember when the dog was diving in, they let the dog go, and the trainer was sitting there, and the dog's name was Scooby, and it was all, like, just reverberated in our heads, Scooby, Scooby, Scooby. And it was ridiculous. And then you see the dog, and it's so contrasting the name to the name, and then
this
finally...
is no Scooby.
And then I jump in, and it's 4 o'clock in the morning, and I'm tired, and we can only shoot from 4:30 in the morning until 5:30, and then at night between 7 and 8, or whenever the light was perfect for Roger Deakins. And then they let the dog go. I jumped in, and I had an injury anyway that I got before the collarbone broke. Yeah. So I'm jumping in and doing my best to swim along there. They let the dog go. The dog probably jumped, I don't know, 50 feet. He was supposed to, we figured he'd jump maybe 15, 17, and the dog just catapulted toward me. And I was like, get the dog, grab the dog. This is not fun.
This is not good.
This is no good.
This is not going to be a happy ending.
No, I don't want to act anymore. I don't want to be in another Coen Brothers film.
Exactly.
I'm not getting paid enough.
And I'm going to miss my arm. And I'm going to miss my arm, too.
Yeah, my arm, my life.
You mentioned something, I think you said about sensibilities. Some are writing that you guys, in the way you approach film, share a kind of sensibility with Cormac McCarthy.
I wouldn't know.
Yeah.
All we know is the book appealed to us as,
as just a story?
Well, it's both. As a story, as all Cormac's books do, but also as something that you could make a movie out of.
Hell of a movie.
Yeah.
I read somewhere also, Javier, that this was a latter-day Hannibal Lecter.
Hannibal Lecter, right?
Yeah. You think of him that way at all?
No, not really. No, I mean, there are great performances. There are people that are kind of psycho that I thought for a second to take a look at, but then I thought that it would be a mistake.
To look at somebody else's psycho.
Because then I will copy exactly the same thing that he did, and I will bring that to their movie.
Yeah.
Also, what Javier doesn't do, I mean, it's weirdly not a malevolent character, although he kind of scares the crap out of you. It's weird. I don't know what the line is that Javier walked, but it's not exactly an evil character. He's just very uneasy making.
Or is it something you like about him? I mean, some people say when you're playing a bad person, find some redeeming quality that the audiences will like. Is it that sort of cliche, or is it another cliche?
I don't think that was the intention.
You don't like him, but you recognize him at some level as being human. And
human.
Yeah, and that was again an interesting line. I think that Javier had to walk in his portrayal of the character. He's the one character in the book that actually departs from a certain sense of realism. He's both sort of real in the book and an idea, and that's a very, very difficult thing to do, I think, as an actor, is to sort of preserve that. It's the mystery and the fact that and the fact that you have to be human at the same time that you have to embody something else. You have to sort of embody this idea as the character's written.
And so also, as filmmakers, I think it's tough to cut that together, because if you have too many looks of this, or it can start to become almost silly, So you find the humanity within that, and he brings so much charisma to it. I think that's the great thing about this guy, about his bad guy, his Chigurh, is that there's a charisma that you can't help but like the guy, but you shouldn't. You want to follow him, which is, so there's 2 or 3 things going on at once that you don't get to see in film usually.
Take a look at this. This is you there. Here it is.
What's the most you ever lost on a coin toss?
Javier, you once said every movie you do is important because it teaches you how to at least not do what you don't want to do.
Wow, did I say that?
It was an interview magazine. So, yeah.
God. I don't know.
So if you have a bad experience in a movie, you know not to repeat that experience.
Exactly.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, you want to get surrounded by people that, of course, they do well their job, but most important that they are good people to gather with and collaborate with. And there are people out there that they don't understand that. So, lucky enough, these brothers, beyond the great filmmakers they are great people. So I don't think you can go. This is the top you can get.
It really is.
Yeah, it really
I
is.
think the same thing.
For sure.
Totally.
Why is that? I mean, it's obviously talent, it's obviously sensibility, it's obviously something.
But you were trying to make that connection between Cormac and
exactly,
the brothers, and that's no, it's just people doing their own thing. I don't think that they expect. I mean, they've said it. They don't expect their movies to be, fully accessible. There's no pandering going on. There's no pandering going on with Cormac. There's no pandering going on with the Coens, and they'd never say that. I mean, they would never. They don't talk about themselves at all.
I know, but that's why you.
But that's why I'm here to support them. I'm basically
You're
the Coens mascot.
in the movie. Oh, no. I mean, I just
Josh pops up and says, "Well, I'll tell you."
They won't. We need somebody to tell us what they're like.
No, but it's true, and there's a whole mystery that's come, that's been created around what the Coens are and all this kind of stuff. Because of the sensibility and the absurd. No, man, they're sweet guys.
Yeah, exactly.
A little strange, but they're sweet.
But there's a mystery, though.
There is a mystery that's been created because the movies are so authentic and unique and personal, and it's a different kind of filmmaking.
I thank you, Josh. Great to have you on the program.
Thanks
at
so
long
much.
last. Thank you. Javier, great to see you again. And for you, too. Welcome back. Have we done how many movies? 4 or 5?
Yeah, at least.
Yeah.
Yep.
Thank you again. Very much.
Thank you.